Good morning, these are the top stories. China issues stern rebuke to Trudeau, stop with your irresponsible remarks. Story continues below. Advertisement. China's foreign ministry warned its citizens about travel to Canada and issued a stern rebuke to Justin Trudeau on Tuesday, telling Ottawa to stop making such irresponsible remarks, after the Prime Minister accused Beijing of arbitrarily enforcing its laws. China is strongly dissatisfied with the Canadian criticism, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying said. She did not mention Mr. Trudeau by name. But, she said, the remarks by the relevant Canadian person lack the most basic awareness of the legal system. China's warning to its citizens matches what Canada had done on Monday. We encourage Canadians to exercise a high degree of caution in China due to the risk of arbitrary enforcement of local laws, Global Affairs said. The wording echoes comments by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau after a Chinese court sentenced Canadian Robert Schellenberg to death on drug trafficking charges. It is of extreme concern to us as a government, as it should be, to all our international friends and allies, that China has chosen to begin to arbitrarily apply the death penalty as it is in this case facing a Canadian, Trudeau said, adding that Ottawa will do all it can to persuade Beijing not to execute Schellenberg. In a single-day trial, a Chinese court called Schellenberg a core member of an organized international drug trafficking conspiracy. But Schellenberg said he was a tourist caught up in a conspiracy to traffic drugs to Australia by a man he thought was his translator. "I am not a drug smuggler. I am not a drug user," he testified. Story continues below. Advertisement. Schellenberg, however, has faced drug charges in Canada. BC. Court records show that in 2012 he pleaded guilty to possessing cocaine and heroin for the purposes of trafficking. He served 16 months in prison. Schellenberg was also convicted on drug possession charges in 2012 and in 2003. Here's Professor Lynette H. ONG's take on Schellenberg's death sentence, and the broader spat with China that began after the arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. We can be certain that the longer China allows this to drag on, the more friends it will lose in Canada and across the Western world. You cannot stop a big bully through a fist fight, but one hopes that you can appeal to his senses with moral suasion. This is the Daily Morning Update newsletter. If you're reading this on the web, or it was forwarded to you from someone else, you can sign up for Morning Update and more than 20 more Globe newsletters on our newsletter sign-up page. The Brexit vote and what comes next. The vote on Prime Minister Theresa May's deal is set for around 7 p.m. local time, or 2 p.m. If it's defeated, as expected, May will have 3 working days to come up with a new plan. If that is also rejected, MPs will decide on the way forward, which could include holding another Brexit referendum, delaying Brexit, or cancelling it altogether. Leaving the European Union without an agreement would cause turbulence for our economy, create barriers to security cooperation and disrupt people's daily lives, May warned in an 11th-hour plea to lawmakers. Story continues below. Advertisement. Doug Ford says the OPP commissioner job is a political appointment. In a pivot from past comments, the Ontario Premier said he has the unilateral power to pick whoever he wants to run Canada's second-largest police force. It comes amid outcry over the decision to name family friend and Toronto Police Superintendent Ron Taverner as commissioner. "As far as I'm concerned, this has been blown out of proportion," Ford told the reporter, adding that, "If I wanted to, I could appoint you OPP commissioner. It's a political appointment." He did not say he had a hand in choosing Taverner. His remarks come after The Globe reported that Taverner dined with Ford several times this summer prior to the OPP appointment. One dinner was also attended by Mario Di Tommaso, who was one of the interview panelists who vetted commissioner candidates. Di Tommaso has since been named a deputy minister by the Ford government. Here's our editorial board's view. Ron Taverner cannot become the commissioner of the OPP. The coziness of his relationship with the Premier is too fraught to allow it. The Gold Corp sale and the hollowing out of corporate Canada story continues below advertisement. Canada's second biggest gold miner is being bought by U.S. firm Newmont Mining in a $10 billion acquisition, for subscribers. It comes only months after Toronto-based Barrick Gold merged with Randgold in a $6 billion deal, and will likely see the Newmont Gold Corp combo supplant Barrick's title as the world's largest gold company. But the larger story here, writes Eric Reguli, is the hollowing out of the corporate sector. Aside from the loss of their Toronto stock market listings, the endless elimination of head offices across Canada rots the country's social fabric. When head offices disappear, so does talent. For subscribers, got a news tip that you'd like us to look into. Email us at tips@globeandmail.com. Need to share documents securely? Reach out via secure drop in case you missed it. A mayor who was a liberal critic of Poland's right-wing government was killed. Pavel Adamowicz, the 53-year-old mayor of Gdansk, died yesterday after being stabbed at a public charity concert Sunday night. He was known as a supporter of gay rights, and he had campaigned for the rights of immigrants in a country whose governing party has leaned heavily on anti-immigrant rhetoric. Morning market stocks climb. Chinese stimulus hopes lifted world stocks on Tuesday, while Britain's pound huddled near a two-month high as the UK's Parliament readied for a meaningful vote on Prime Minister Theresa May's unpopular Brexit plans. Tokyo's Nikkei gained 1%, Hong Kong's Hang Seng 2%, and the Shanghai Composite 1.4%. In Europe, London's FTSE 100, Germany's DAX and the Paris CAC 40 were up by between 0.1 and 0.3% by about 7 a.m. ET. New York futures were up. The Canadian dollar was below 75.5 US cents. What everyone's talking about is Netflix phenomenon. Marie Kondo, most adorable or most annoying? Kondo is a 34-year-old Japanese organizing consultant. She's written best-selling books. The Netflix show is about decluttering and how that can make you super happy and less stressed. This involves thanking the house for sheltering its occupant. Also, thanking your clothes for being clothes and determining if said clothes spark joy. CNN described Kondo rather cattily as a tiny garbage fairy for messy people, but it's an apt description. The pseudo-mysticism of pseudo-praying for guidance about your pile of stuff amounts to scattering fairy dust in order to tidy up. There are no fairies. There is no such thing as fairy dust. It's all delusional. John Doyle no longer a wild conspiracy theory. The possibility of Trump as Russian agent. This is, above all, a very real and very dangerous crisis. The time to wring our hands and hide behind faith and disbelief are over. To fully counter this possible betrayal, we must look it dead in the face and begin to change our perception of what is feasible. Donald Trump has capitalized on the good faith of the American people. In order to start healing, we must accept that, with this administration, with this group, with this movement that Trump embodies, almost anything is possible. Jared Yates Sexton, Associate Professor at Georgia Southern University. Canadian universities must stop undervaluing female academics. University campuses are often at the forefront of pushing for progressive causes around social equity. While women have achieved gender parity in Canadian universities' student body, cohorts of PhD graduates and among tenure-track assistant professors, academia is not the most progressive Canadian workplaces for its professors. Besma Momani, professor at the University of Waterloo. Living Better. A Toronto hospital is expanding AI research in an effort to save and improve lives. Drive. Anna Goldenberg is being named the first chair in biomedical informatics and artificial intelligence at the Hospital for Sick Children. The position is set to accelerate a project that would use AI to help predict when and in what part of the body a malignancy will develop in patients with Li-Fraumeni syndrome, a rare hereditary disease that predisposes people to cancer. Another project will see sick kids test a computer model that can predict up to 70% of cardiac arrests 5 minutes before the heart stops beating. Moment in time. Target announces it will close all Canadian stores. Peter Power, Reuters. Peter Power, Reuters. Target was doomed to fail before it even opened its doors in this country. It wasn't supposed to end this way, of course. The Minneapolis-based retail giant stormed into Canada with an aggressive launch strategy in 2013 and plans to open 133 stores in quick succession. Management believed the company had already won over Canadians, since many shoppers already traveled across the border in search of discounts at the U.S. chain. But botched implementation of software led to severe inventory problems and empty shelves. Later, expecting huge sales in the first year, the company ordered far too much product, clogging warehouses, and contributing to nearly $1 billion loss. The company had also paid $1.8 billion for the store leases of the defunct Zellers chain, and some of those outposts were in undesirable locations. The company made improvements the following year, but back in the United States, management decided the time and costs required to ultimately fix the Canadian division were too much to bear. On January 15, 2015, the company announced the entire operation would be shut down, putting 17,600 employees out of work. Target Canada was gone in a matter of months, leaving behind only empty stores. Joe Castaldo. If you'd like to receive this newsletter by email every weekday morning, go here to sign up. If you have any feedback, send us a note.